Now another LED tool that's particularly useful for making orbs and squiggles are fairy lights. These are usually used as Christmas lights. That's what the regular application is. But since we're light painters, we are going to use them for light painting. Now some of them are very bright, some of them are very dull. It depends on which one you get. And when you get it, you might notice that the cord that's coming from the battery pack to the lights, it might kind of lose the connection after a while if you tug on it and you pull on it too much. So what I would recommend doing is taping up the cord to the battery pack to make sure that it doesn't pull too much. Now you'll notice that there's a lot of LEDs. You can get ones that have 10 LEDs, and others you can probably get some that have 100. I think most of these I'm using right now have about 10 to 40 LEDs. All of these are different actually. The one that I'm holding right now is unmodified. The fairy lights are just on the cord and that's it. They're on throughout the entire cord. However, this one, I extended the wire with speaker wire and I taped up the ends with electrical tape. I made it longer, and this makes it so all the fairy lights are only at the end of the cord. There are no lights on the cord in between the battery pack and the actual end point. So what's the difference between the two lights? Well, the modified version with all the lights at the end of the cord, this will produce more hollow orbs that you can see inside of them. The unmodified version with the fairy lights going throughout the cord is going to produce orbs that have more lines inside of them. Now another thing that you can do is get some colored LED keychain lights. I got these at superbrightleds.com and I put them all in one single keychain. I locked all of them on, and I'm just going to take one keychain here and then attach it to the end of the fairy light cord. Now instead of getting tons of LEDs with one color, I have a few LEDs that are multicolored. So that will produce an orb that looks like this. And just in case you're curious of how I froze myself in midair, I had a remote control in my hand that triggered an external flash to flash on me when I pushed the button. Now, finally, how to make an orb. What type of movement do you need to make? Well, it's good to grab a quarter or some sort of object and then place it on the ground. Next, you're going to want to grab your fairy lights and start spinning them above the quarter. Make sure your hand, which is the pivot point that is holding the fairy lights, is above the quarter, and that the fairy lights are passing the quarter every time it spins around. After you got that going, next you're going to want to orbit your body around the quarter in a circle. Keep spinning it and make sure it passes the quarter every single time right on top, and try to keep your hand directly above the quarter as well. Now you only need to orbit your body around the quarter for 180 degrees, and then you can stop. However, a lot of people do orbit their body around the quarter for 360 degrees because it makes it easier to draw more lines of the orb. Now, one very last thing that you might want to consider is the way you hold your fairy light battery pack. Right now, I'm holding mine just using one hand. I have the switch controlled by my middle finger, and then I squeeze the cord with my index finger and my thumb. Other people extend the cord with speaker wire very long so that they can hold the battery pack in their left hand and turn it on and off that way, and then spin the cord with their right hand. It's up to you, either method. Right now I'm just using the single hand method because the cord wouldn't be long enough to do the double hander. Now you can also tape fairy lights onto a hula hoop and then tape a stick to it if you want to, and just spin it around on the ground, or maybe even spin it around in the air if you wanted to. And this will create an orb which is kind of different from the other ones. The lines will look more parallel and more perfect, as you see here. This picture was taken with no stick, But this picture right here was taken with the stick included, and you can actually kind of see the stick in the middle of the orb.